Okay, thanks. Alright, okay, bye. Hello, friends and family. This is Megan Bowen, aka Tom. Let me good Saddam. I'd like to give a big shout out to Audible for sponsoring this video. If you don't know what Audible is, they are an audiobook service provider and they literally have an unmatched selection of audiobooks. They have original audio shows and they have even more stuff from the leading audiobook publishers, broadcasters, news, magazines, entertainment. Literally anything you're gonna want is gonna be on Audible, okay? Right now, I'm listening to this audiobook, I Can't Make This Up, by Kevin Hart. The reason why I love audiobooks so much is simply just because they help you to maximize your time. So make sure you visit audible.com/Megan or text Megan to 500-500 so that way you can get a 30-day exclusive free trial and you'll be able to download one free book of your choice right away. Now, with your Audible memberships, you'll be able to get one free audiobook every month and you'll be able to get 2 free Audible originals. How awesome is that? The information will be down below. Now let's get on to the video. So we all know that every country has their own set of rules, set of beliefs, set of values, which leads them to act and behave in a certain way. But because I was not born here, there are a lot of times where things happen in Korea that I personally feel really awkward about and I don't know what to do. So I get like really like in my mind, I'm like, they're awkward for me, okay. So I thought I would take the time to explain a couple of situations that I find myself in a lot here in Korea that are just really awkward for me because I don't know how to respond to them, etc. Well, let's start with number 1. So in Korea, as I've mentioned before, people are way more matter of fact when it comes to looks. Like, are you attractive? Are you not? Everybody knows like what they look like and kind of where they rank on the scale of attractiveness. It's more matter of fact. So there's this one situation that I find myself in, and I would say it happens about 4 times a year. Now that I'm getting older people in Korea don't tend to do it, but a lot of younger people will do it, and that is they will ask you. 2 guys are like, hey, who's more attractive, me or him? Isn't that awkward? Like, we would never ask that in America, right? So it's like, how do I respond? And we're always in a group of people, so my American self is always like, even if I see clearly one of them is more attractive, my American self is just like, you look equal. And then everyone else in the group is like, no, are you blind? Clearly this guy's more attractive. And then the guy who's less attractive is like, yeah, I know he's more attractive than me, right? But she said I'm equal. Has it ever happened to any one of you out there? Like where somebody's asked you to compare 2 people's looks who are like right in front of you? It's so awkward. Let's move on to number 2. So the next one is more like, I don't really know how to answer that question. And it's awkward because it's something that I feel like people should know the answer to. And that is, every single day, at least twice a day, I get asked, how do you speak Korean so well? And it's like, you know, we're in Korea. So like, isn't it a given that people who are in Korea should be able to speak Korean? Because I'm like, if I'm in a country and I see somebody who's clearly not born in that country, but they're speaking that language, then my first thought is, wow, they must have been here a long time. Like, that's what I would think personally, you know? And most of the times here in Korea, especially if you can speak Korean really well, you're gonna be like the only foreign person that a Korean has ever met who could speak Korean, because again, the amount of foreigners we have are very, very small here in Korea, and the amount of them that actually speak like fluent Korean is also very, very small. So for most people, you're like the first foreign person that they've ever even talked to. So I know that, so I don't get angry or anything, but it's just that question, just like, I can see if we were in another country, like let's say I was in Germany and I was calling my special friend back in Korea and talking in Korean, and a Korean person walked by, they could come and say, wow, how do you speak Korean? Because we're in Germany, right? So they probably want to know, you know, have you lived in Korea? Are you half Korean? Like, what's up? But here in Korea, the answer that I usually give is like, oh, well, I'm in Korea, so I should be speaking Korean well, right? But I don't say it in a rude way, I say it in like a respectful way. And I let it go because it really does frustrate me, because it slows you down too. It's like we have to do something, like I'm at a phone store or I'm at the bank trying to do something, and we always have to have that like couple-minute conversation about how I speak Korean so well. I'm like, bro, I'm here at the bank with paperwork, so obviously I'm not just a tourist passing by, like I'm somebody who lives here. So it's kind of like, bro, well, let's just move past that. It's a little bit frustrating. So the next one is kind of interesting because it's impromptu speeches. So I don't know what it is, but I think in Korean culture, like they like when people like randomly share their thoughts about the group or something like that. And they love making you give impromptu speeches. Like me, because I'm involved in a lot of government programs, because Korea has so many awesome government programs, like especially for business startups and everything. The Korean government had a program that was for new startup CEOs, and you could stay in this housing for very, very cheap. Like the security deposit was only $5,000, which you might be like, that's a lot of money, but it ain't, trust me, because most places in Korea is gonna be 20 minimum. Right? Most nice places are going to be at least $20,000 for a security deposit. And the rent was only $100 a month. And it was put on by Seongbuk-gu, which is, Seongbuk-gu is like up near like Haehwa and Seongsinyodae. That area is Seongbuk-gu. So the government officials of Seongbuk-gu and like Seoul, they like came in front of our like villa, which is where we all stayed in this like villa, and the news cameras were there, and they were like, oh, it's a foreigner who's here, hey, come and say something. I'm like, are you kidding me? In front of the government officials, in front of all the cameras and like the entourages of the government officials. So it was so awkward. It's like, I applied for this program and it's really beneficial for me to not have to pay a big security deposit and rent. Thank you. And they probably like, we will never let a foreigner talk ever again. Because you know, Korean's not my native language. So like making speeches like that on the fly, and because you're with government officials and stuff, you gotta like use like 높임말, which is like the higher language, and you have to be more formal, right? You can't be going up there talking like a middle schooler. I mean, you could because you're a foreigner, but I'm not trying to go down like that, okay? I need to give a speech, it needs to be flawless. Thank you. Especially if you're the only foreigner involved in something in your community, etc. They're gonna ask you to do random speeches. I remember one time for Seongbuk-gu, for all the people who were like business startups of Seongbuk-gu, we had to do this like government even performance, and we had to learn a song like manse bum 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 bum, like with the balloons and stuff, and then they made me like give a random speech there on stage in front of government people. Again, like so many times they randomly asked me to speak. And not just that, but in Korea, the culture of having like dinner, they call peishik, which are like dinners you have like with your work people, because in Korea the group is very important and they like to have group bonding activities, etc. And so not only will you just like go to dinner together after work, but you also go on trips too at work, and you know, they pay for everything, and it's really nice and like fun actually. But anyway, so even at those kind of events, they ask you to randomly like share something like about the company. So I've just learned, if you're going to any kind of event, anything out of the ordinary, just have a little something prepared in your mind. Especially if you're the foreigner, you best believe they're gonna be asking you. Otherwise, it's gonna catch you off guard. Another thing you need to know is you need to have a song prepared for karaoke, because at all of these events, they will always, almost always, have some kind of karaoke, and like everybody has to sing a song. So have a song prepared just in case. Because they might ask you. Recently at an EBS thing, I sang a 21 song. Look, I got all the 21 songs right out of my pocket, bro. They are ready. I even got it memorized just in case the screen stops working or something, so I can have it. Now I've been talking too long, let's move on. So the next thing is kind of like just awkward because it's a violation of personal space. And that is, it's happened to me 7 times. I guess it's not a lot. Okay, so that's once a year. Again, it's very rare, but it still happens here. And actually, I just recently mentioned it in my video with Eunice, and we're talking about like ways to avoid fights with your Korean boyfriend. And we talked about how like older Korean women, if they see you and they think you have a nice body, like, it's not just me, I've talked to other people who've been touched by an old woman as well. But like, I'll be standing in a line somewhere at a bakery or just at the bank somewhere, and then the old woman next to me is just like, that's the sound you make of approval in Korea. So she'll and go along the length of your body and just touch you. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. And then she'll be like something like, oh, 날씬해, 되게 이쁘다, 인형 같다, like that, those like things. I'm like, you touched my butt. Okay, thanks. Alright, okay, bye. Okay, I'm gonna slut. I can't escape the cameras. Hello. And along the lines of that, like older people do tend to stare a lot. Younger people not so much these days, but they still really stare a lot. You know how in America, like, staring is something that we consider to be a little bit rude. So like, if you're staring at somebody because they look so nice or because, you know, something's wrong with them, and they see you staring at them, you have to like kind of look away like, not in Korea, man. They just be like full on staring. Sometimes they'll even walk closer to get a closer look and stare at you. And then like you see them staring at you, but it doesn't deter them. Like in America, when you catch someone staring, they look away, but in Korea they don't. They just keep looking. So then you're just staring at this stranger and it's really awkward. And you're like, what do I do? So I just turn around and go somewhere else, because it's just so awkward for me. So the last situation that I can think of right now, because you guys for some reason love when I just turn on the camera and I just at you, so I was like, let's do that today too. But the last thing is when people ask you to get stuff for them. Like, in Korea it's like really different. Like, people will ask you to get stuff for them a lot, and I just feel like, bro, you know, you have arms and legs, like, why can't you get it yourself? But then at the same time, if we're both sitting here and I ask somebody to get something for me, they'll always get it. I guess they're just more like communal in thinking, so people will ask you to get stuff for them that they could clearly and easily get for themselves and vice versa. And so I'm not used to that as an American, so sometimes I'm like, you know, you're closer to the thing. Why don't you get it yourself? Like, you know, you're right there. Like, in America, we typically only ask people to get stuff if they're going anyway. So it's like, hey, I'm going to the kitchen. It's like, oh, while you're going, get me something. But if we're both sitting here, I would never ask you to go to the kitchen and get something for me, right? So that's always awkward, and in my mind, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna ask them to get something for me next time so I don't have to get up and do it. Anyway, that's random, but hey. So I know I said a lot in this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. If you like this video and like to see more videos, please subscribe to my YouTube page or just down below. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and I will